Good evening, once again. I'd like to
Is it
say,
evening? It's evening?
isn't it?
Oh, it sure is. Good evening to you too.
Oh, good evening to you. I like the t-shirt you have on.
Ah.
But I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to the audience at large.
Oh, yes.
That's my wife. That's my wife, Zola, being charming and seductive. And come on, join.
I sure will.
How you doing, lady?
I'm doing good.
It's so good to have you.
Yes,
Once again, it's Monday evening, and we're continuing to read this book. This is called Book Pushing at the at the at the corner drugstore level.
But it's this is the book.
This is the book.
Black, white, and brown on the blue line, and we've skipped ahead to chapter 7, which is page 105. You can purchase the book on Amazon. On Amazon, excuse me. Or, Google Odie Hawkins, Black, White, and Brown on the blue line. I think you'll like it.
Thank you. Very good. Okay, as she just said, oh, he's looking at you.
And looking at you.
Hope your coffee is as good as mine.
Likewise, sir. Likewise, sir.
The section that we just decided to skip had to do with me going to Ghana, West Africa, in 1992 and staying for 3 years. I went with a 90-day visa. It wasn't 2 years altogether. I came back after a year and stayed for 6 months and lived at John Outerbridge,
Amen,
a prince of a fellow,
yeah.
In his artist loft on Slauson and Main Street. In any case, that's where I was for a while. It's a little bit like saying, here's the way some artists live sometimes at any time. Mm-hmm. The story starts or continues on chapter 5. I call it 105. I call it The Gypsy and Me.
Mm-hmm. Chapter 7.
Chapter 7.
Mm-hmm. Page 105.
No, what am I reading?
Chapter 7.
Maybe I don't need my glasses.
I do believe you need your glasses.
Just
continue on.
Continue on. This takes place from the Metro to 7th Street, and I'm calling it simply Reminiscences. I don't know. Maybe it stems from my nomadic childhood, this gypsy thing, moving from one side of Chicago to the other side. The city only has 3 sides, the south side, the north side, and the west side. Lake Michigan is the east side. Before I was 15, my mother, my sister, daddy was doing time in Statesville Penitentiary, had lived on all sides of the city, including a stay as far east as the lake would allow. I didn't feel put out by this constant shuffling of pads. Evictions were the usual motivations for our motions. I was turned on. I hated the rat hole we burrowed into for a week or a month, but I loved the scenes we wandered through.
Hold on 1 second. We got to...
I love the scenes we wandered through. I'll come back to this.
All right, hold on. I'm going to leave for a minute while I catch my neighbor. Look at this. You home?
It could only happen right here in this place where you have a spontaneous natural action happen. You couldn't imagine a big time.
Excuse me, my husband, excuse me, readers, but our neighbor who we're helping called and she didn't quite make it home yet because whom she's riding with is playing more than she knew what was going on. As often is the case as we get older and we are riding, not in driving, we are riding with somebody else. As with riding,
okay.
as with riding on the blue line.
Okay, well, I said a few words to indicate to the audience that this is what happens when you do a home advertising scene and you wind up with something very natural happening. So don't be put off by it. Just remember that you too may have something to sell one day. And that's what it is. We're advertising this book. What's the book? What's the name of the book we're reading about?
We're reading Black, White, and Brown on the blue line. So get you some libation. I hope that was time for you to get you a snack or something. And join us again as Odie continues.
I'm going to start off again because that was an interruption.
Yes, please.
Don't forget this. Tell your friends, hey, you wouldn't believe what these people are doing. And they're serious too. I don't know. Maybe it stemmed from my nomadic childhood, this gypsy thing. Moving one side of Chicago to the other side. The city only has three sides, the south side, the north side, and the west side. Lake Michigan is the east side. Before I was 15, we, my mother and sister, Daddy was doing time at Statesville Penitentiary, had lived on all sides of the city, including a stay as far east as the lake would allow. I didn't feel put out by this constant shuffling of pads. Evictions were the usual motivations for our motions. I was turned down. I hated the rat holes we burrowed into for a week or a month, but I loved the scenes we wandered through. On the south side, I got to know a few Japanese kids at Oakenwall Grammar School over there on Lake Park Avenue. Oakenwall was one of the 18 grammar schools I went to. Correct that, 17. Where did they come from? I didn't find out that many years later they were refugees from the West Coast, hassled to find some degree of safety from Japanese haters. And the pimps and hoes, many people say whores, I knew where they came from. They turned chicks and lived in the building we lived in for a while, never too long. The Alma Hotel, 3800 South Lake Park Avenue. Never will forget. 3800 South Lake Park Avenue.
Yes.
In tune with my nomadic side, the neighborhood, the buildings we lived in, the things that happened were never still, never stationary. Yes, the neighborhoods moved. Sometimes they would be Irish or Italian and change overnight to black or Mexican or Czechoslovakian. The buildings moved. A four-story brick on Monday, a parking lot or a department store on Friday. I was in tune. It was like a nature thing. Turning a corner was a voyage into the occult. Going to sleep and waking up in the same bedroom was an adventure. Hey, why don't you pretend to be me and continue reading from there for a while? Let's see how you do me.
Okay. I crisscrossed the south side like a white man who was in search of something to discover. There were moments in time, when I was walking through a dream, experiencing the effect of something that I couldn't find a name for. On the south side, which included the lakefront, despite the fact that it was east, there were collections, congregations, glutamates, thank you. You make words. Crowds of emotion, school units, ideas profoundly scholarly, and hip men and women. Plus midnight carnivals with so much music and a life-strengthening vibes that it was hard to sleep. The daytime promised and delivered daytime vibes, and the nighttime promised and delivered nighttime vibes, and none of them were sleep-evoking. I dreamt of the South Side as though it were surrealistic. And the same goes for the West Side, where I was born. The Maxwell Street Hospital was where it happened.
Jewtown, they called it back then. And that wasn't considered something derogatory or pejorative. It was where Jews lived, worked, and hustled. I think the Jews helped make the West Side my favorite side of town. It may have had something to do with their bread, or maybe it was the non-Protestant vibe. It took me a long time to find out where the Jews came from and what a Jew is. If I read the newspapers closely, it seemed that they were having the same problem themselves. What is a Jew? I didn't have any doubts about the gypsies. There was a gypsy colony in Jewtown, down around Canal Street. I knew who they were intuitively. The Jews had the bread I liked, but the Gypsies had the soul I loved. Your turn.
Day after day, I found an excuse to wander through their tiny neighborhoods. Maybe 400 people. And I still don't know if they were Spanish, Hungarian, Indian, Russian, or what. But that was the drawing card for me, the fact that they never allowed national boundaries to fence them in. I stared into their mouths when they spoke, laughed at the music of songs I couldn't understand, but seemed funny because the singers made funny faces, and frowned when the sad music was played. I knew the blues when I heard it.
The Gypsies hemmed me in with their stuff. They seemed to be ethereal. They were there, yet they were not there. Maybe the Maxwell Street Library, offered a rationale for my hemming. I'll never know. I do know that it was a Bronze Age chill racing through the streets, nipping cotton-bound buttocks that forced me into the two-story building. The library. I was 12, maybe, going on 30, and had never heard of anything called a library. Not on the personal level, at any rate. A few minutes was all I needed to warm my mittenless hands in the vestibule, a place before you get into a place, my definition of their definition. Mm-hmm. But that was enough to change my life forever. Someone was playing the piano upstairs. Dream girl, awaken to me. Oh, beautiful dream girl, awaken to me. I followed the melody but never found it, or the pianist, and found myself in the Maxwell Street Library.
I have to cool myself out even today when I recall the excitement of walking into a room that was filled with books. In the warmth of the building, I thought I was hallucinating, that maybe I had died in the Siberian cold of the Chicago winter and was reborn in a book-bound heaven. Where was the librarian? Maybe she was the piano? Circe, who hired me into the room of books. I plunged and lunged through the stacks, leaving unread volumes behind me, and wound up with something called Romany Rye, okay, and Lawrence of Arabia. Romany Rye, okay. Only God and the Rishas can say what took me there, why I picked those books to read, why I heard the melody in my head. Romany Rye was a sociological study of European gypsies. I can't remember what conclusions the book reached or what the premise of the book was supposed to be. For me, it was a flight of birds flying higher than any mountain on earth, a glimpse at colors that shimmered in the sunlight. Lawrence of Arabia simply reinforced the romanticism I stumbled into the library with. I wasn't sophisticated enough to ask the librarian's help to track down books about the Rome. I simply stumbled blindly from one occasional reference to a volume to another.
Everything that I came across served to enhance my admiration for them, for people who could dismiss borders by roaming the earth the way human beings should roam the earth. During our own gypsy period in 2 grammar schools, out of the 17 we whipped through, I had 2 teachers, one African American, one white, who asked me, "What would you like to be when you grow up?" What would you like to be when you?
A fire engine.
I wish I had thought of that.
Okay.
And when I answered a gypsy, the earth stopped spinning for a minute. The black teacher asked my mother to come up for a chat. The chat went on for a while, and I recall the teacher saying something about identity several times.
Oh
my mother simply nodded, a neutral expression on her pretty little beige face. She knew her son. Mm-hmm. The white teacher who asked me to Master Christian turned slightly pink and stuttered, but they don't have anything. They had gypsy ways. That's what I like. Your turn.
The teacher looked at me out of the corners of her eyes for the rest of the time, 2 months, I spent in her classroom. Guess she wanted to see if the gypsy in me was going to bust out. Years later, in Spain, in the city of Alicante, on the southeastern coast, I became friends with a number of gypsy people, and for the first time in my life, I realized I could never be a gypsy, but I still feel like one. Wandering, 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 wandering. Reminiscence.
So, you know what I'm going to ask you to do?
Yes, sir.
We've been trying to divide the reading of the book into which parts are obviously male and which part is obviously female. As often as we can, as we go through this, I'm going to ask you to just do it just the way we did it. This hadn't been rehearsed, obviously.
No, it hadn't.
And I grabbed her by surprise, which is what I wanted to do because I think the reading should be more spontaneous than organized and planned out. Because I think you get a level of spontaneity to it, and it means that this is the way you might be reading it.
This is true. You come across words that you've known, and they're like, "Oh, this is the first reading." Oh,
yeah,
okay, yeah.
And especially if you read it out loud. One of the things I would suggest to those who may be interested in buying Black, White, and Brown on the Blue Line is that from time to time, take a moment or two to read parts of the book aloud. I've made an effort to write it as lyrically as possible so that if we go back and forth on the Blue Line from downtown Long Beach to downtown LA, there would be sections that are deliberately meant to go along with the rhythm of the train. So if you feel that, I will have accomplished my purpose. This is what we were promising that we were going to do this coming Monday because we missed last Monday.
Right. And I also wanted to mention that this coming Saturday is World Tai Chi Day.
Oh, yes.
So Fayette Park, we're at 10 o'clock. People will be doing Tai Chi. People all over the world in their zone that do Tai Chi will be performing Tai Chi together at 10 o'clock. And you should check it out for your health, for your mind.
Appreciate you.
For the appreciation you'll have even for yourself. And with that, wish you a long and happy life.
Stay up.
Stay up and do Tai Chi. Odie Hawkins' website is www.odiehawkins.com. Website sponsored by Azteca. Bye now.